What we do in life echoes in eternity. I know a lot of people have been waiting for this response and this opinion, and you have to understand, this is not my real job. Like, this is not my first job. I have a very busy life, so I have not had time to put this together. And for those of you out there who are kind of trolling, saying, bro's just milking it, no, I'm not. I actually don't even want to have to do this, but the way this all came down and the way society is with him and the approach and all this stuff, I feel it's just something that needs to be said. And once I get this out, once I get this done, I am moving on from it because I'm not going to dwell in it anymore. I'm going to move on and I'm going to live my life. And you have to understand that this is not an easy video to put together because there's a lot to this. And I want to make sure that not only do I get my points across, but at the same time, I'm respectful to someone who is no longer here. But like I said in the beginning, what we do in life echoes in eternity. It's actually a quote by Marcus Aurelius, and it says that basically what we do in our life, the way we live our lives, the way we influence others, that has a lasting effect, whether positive or negative, after we're gone. And just because somebody is out of this world and they're gone, not in existence anymore, doesn't mean the effect that they had on the world can't be discussed. And in discussing that, there's going to be some things said about that individual. It is unavoidable. So with that being said, please listen with your ears and not your triggers. It's a quote from another creator, Chris Hinton, that I follow, and I kind of like that one. But before I get into things, I need to address a few items and some comment trends on my last couple of videos I want to talk about. So first of all, my credentials and why I think my opinion actually matters in this situation. I'm not just some opinionated assholes out here trying to start drama. I've actually been battling stage 4 cancer for about 5 years now. In January, it'll be 5 years. In January of 2021, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer with 85% of my liver covered in metastatic tumors. And my first oncologist told me, if you don't do something about this now, you're not going to be here in a year. So since then, I've done 71 rounds of chemo. I've had 2 gigantic abdominal surgeries on my liver and my colon. I've had 5 liver ablations. And right now, as of a month ago, I have no live tumors left in my body. I still have cancer and I'm still on chemo to try to get rid of the rest. And I may get there one day, or I may not. Now, to address a couple of the comment trends I've seen on my last few videos. To those of you dropping the age-old my body, my choice, or his body, his choice, or everyone gets to choose their own battle, I actually agree with you. But this is about so much more than that. And to any of you that commented any number of the variations of what good will it do, or just leave it be, he's gone, let him rest in peace, you don't seem to realize that someone may be physically gone from this world, but the choices they made and the way they influenced others can have a lasting effect, both positive and negative. If you've been following health influencers or alternative wellness spaces on here, you might have heard about Richie. He passed away recently from stage 4 colon cancer, and yes, I do believe he had cancer. I know so many people tried to make things up about him and it got a little bit crazy. And in this video, I'm not going to go into any of those things, any of his GoFundMe, or I'm not going to try to play detective to find the truth about what he's really saying, because that's not what this video is about. And if you're expecting that, please scroll on. My heart truly goes out to his family, his friends, and all of you who followed him and cared about him. Losing someone is never easy, especially when they're young and full of life like he was. He built this massive community, over 370,000 followers I think he has now, and he inspired many with his positivity, his determination, and his story. But that's why I feel like I have to speak up now, because his story isn't just sad, it's a wake-up call that could save lives. About 6 months ago, I made a video pleading with Richie to reconsider his approach and seek out real medical help from oncologists and surgeons. I wasn't trying to attack him. I was worried about him. Coming from someone who was battling the same thing for over 4 years at the time, I felt I had some experience that could help. I watched what he was doing, trying to tackle the same disease that I had with some radical alternative ideas, and I felt that I could offer him a different perspective. That video kind of blew up, and frankly, the comments were rough. A lot of his followers came at me pretty fucking hard, saying that I was wrong and that I didn't understand faith or natural healing, and saying Richie knew what he was doing. And I get it. When someone you look up to shares their journey with such conviction, it's easy to rally behind them. But what you don't know is that after that video, Richie actually reached out to me privately on a DM, and he asked if he could talk, said it was important. So I gave him my number and he gave me a call, and we talked for about an hour, probably more than that. And in that conversation, he told me some things that to this day I've kept private because it was not my place to share. But you know, He's gone now, and unfortunately, this is the truth and the reality. Richie told me he had HIV. He told me he couldn't do chemo because his immune system was already shot from the things he had to do with that. He told me that he was afraid to do chemo because he thought it would kill him because of his immune system. Not because of his faith, not because of his against big pharma and all that kind of stuff. And he wanted to tell people, but he didn't know how to do it without losing his following. See, I thought he had called and he wanted to talk because he needed help with this cancer, and that my video had maybe gotten through to him, but it turned out he needed help with his image. And I told him, you need to tell the truth. You need to come out and say, this is what's happening, because people will understand. They love you, they love your charisma, they love who you are, your determination, they will understand. And he decided not to. And every single time I tried to talk to him about the medical or anything, he would steer it back to these radical ideas, thinking it was gonna work. Now, overall, the conversation was great, but I walked away from it rubbing my head going, oh my God, like he just doesn't have a clue. That conversation highlighted a couple of things for me though. First of them being how easy it is to get trapped in your own story when you're scared and desperate. And the second thing is, it made me realize how dangerous it can be when influencers hold back key truths and just let people follow blindly. See, Richie was all in on all these extreme alternative treatments. He pushed things like 40-day water fasts, red light therapy, hyperbaric chambers, and coffee enemas as a way to beat stage 4 colon cancer, none of which have ever been proven to work as a cure for cancer. I don't care what you believe, it just hasn't. He denied the sciences behind the chemo, the surgery, the standard oncology, steering people away from proven interventions. He may not have ever told anyone to do these things directly, and he would often hide behind this is only my opinion and not medical advice line in his videos. But let's be real, when you amass a following of over 1/3 people, you become an influencer. Your choices end up influencing people who either have a hard time thinking for themselves, or who are scared and lost and looking for anything to help. And that can be dangerous. Because let's face it, people are easily influenced. Some are weak-minded and think that if someone makes a claim with enough vibes or riz, they must be telling the truth. Others are in situations that feel like nightmares and they're looking for any reprieve from the hell they feel that they're in. I mean, that's literally why we call them influencers on this app and the other social media platforms. Because the way they live their lives influences others to do the same. See, I don't actually fault Richie for his choices. Ultimately, it was his life and he was free to do any treatments that he wanted to do. What I fault him for is not recognizing that he influenced people with this platform. The protocols he shared in his videos could be dangerous to anyone with cancer, and his disregard for his effect on others was disturbing. And it is so much more dangerous than you think, because God forbid someone who just got diagnosed is scared and feeling like there's no hope. They might be new in this cancer algorithm and stumble on one of his videos and think, hey, if I just do that, I won't have to do chemo. Then they miss the opportunity to get real medical help, and by the time they realize how badly they actually want to live, it's too late. I believe it's the root of the problem that I had with him. And I think that the lesson we all need to learn from his attempts is that ultimately they didn't work. Nothing he tried worked. Not a single thing. And we need to see that for what it is. None of the things he attempted were rooted in any kind of science or had any evidence to the contrary. Everything he tried and believed was going to work ended up making things more difficult and pushing him further away from actually getting better. And I pray that people start to see that. But it's clear from his comment sections that people won't. And I'm not going to go into his protocols or the things that he did or try to discredit any of them one by one. I'm not going to nitpick any of that. But one of the big claims that he made was that his cancer was actually caused by parasites, that he could just do cleanses to flush it all out, tumors and all. In fact, he even believed at one point that his tumor had died and had turned into a fluid-filled sac that he was trying to, well, poop out. See, that's the kind of mindset that sounds hopeful in the moment, but it's not grounded in reality. Parasites don't cause colon cancer. It has been disproven too many times to count. Cancer is a complex disease driven by genetic mutations, environmental factors, and sometimes just bad fucking luck. And while some complementary therapies can help with symptoms or quality of life alongside medical treatment, they're not cures on their own, especially not for stage 4 cancer. Now, I know that's going to rub some of you the wrong way, especially if you believed in what Richie was doing. And I'm honestly not here to bash him or make him out to be a villain, and I'm not here to challenge his faith. He was a person who was fighting for his life. Probably scared like anyone would be, and he chose a path he thought was right. But those choices and the way he went about it has consequences. Because the truth is, those choices shortened his time here. And many of you will argue that, well, chemo might not have worked for him either, and yeah, that could be true, but it sure as hell works far more often than the alternatives. That's just a fact, whether you like it or not. See, medical science isn't perfect, but it's based on decades of research, clinical trials, and data from millions of patients. Things like surgery to remove tumors, targeted therapies, even palliative care could have gotten him more time with loved ones, time to make memories. Instead, by turning away from that, leaning heavily on his faith and promoting these unproven methods, he became a martyr in some eyes. And that's what's scary, because I've seen people in his comments saying that they are inspired to try the same things for their own diagnosis. For the love of God, please don't. Following someone blindly, no matter how charismatic or faithful they seem, can get you killed. Think about it this way. If a doctor told you to fast for 40 days or shove coffee up your ass to cure cancer, you'd question it, right? But when it's wrapped in a compelling story on social media with background music and vibes, it just feels different. That's the power of influence. And that's why we all need to pause and fact check. We need to stay in reality. We need to talk to real experts, oncologists, not just influencers. Get second opinions. Look at peer-reviewed studies, not just antidotes. Faith and hope are beautiful, but they work best hand in hand with science, not against it. After my video I made and the few conversations I had with Richie begging him to try things in the medical world, I continue to follow him and we remain friends here on TikTok. And even though I disagree with his methods, I never commented on any of his posts or called him out directly, because I do truly believe that people have the right to do what they want with their lives and their treatments. So I followed from a distance with what he was doing and the crazy ideas that he was trying while trying to beat cancer. But in watching over the past year, I noticed some things. See, I live in reality, and I practice Stoic philosophy, and I have a fascination with psychology. I work hard to better understand myself and other people to learn why we act the way that we do. It's sort of a passion of mine. And one of the things that I've learned is that people will show you what they're going through if you're paying attention. In my observation, there was one moment that seemed to lock this story in place for Richie. Back in June of this year, Richie went live on TikTok with thousands of people watching. Literally thousands. He had just gotten his latest scan results read to him by his doctor on camera. The doctor was straight with him. The tumor hadn't shrunk at all, it had actually grown a little. And he basically told Richie, if you don't do something soon, you're going to die a slow and painful death. The doctor even offered to help him in any way that he could, whether he wanted to do the chemo or the medical or not. He said, please come back to me and I will help. And if you don't believe me on that, trust me, there's a recording of that live out there. You can find it if you look to verify everything that I'm saying. See, Richie had just finished his 40-day water fast. He was 100% convinced that the tumor was already dead and that he had pooped the whole thing out weeks earlier. So instead of hearing that doctor, he went into full denial right then and there on the live. He said the entire medical team was against him, started talking about Big Pharma, said he had to go home and research more because he didn't believe it, told everyone the scans were wrong, the doctors were lying, the tumor was just a fluid-filled sac and he was experiencing just detox or whatever his excuse was. You could feel the shift happen in real time. And the worst part is, so many of his followers were complicit in the fallacy. And instead of noticing a man who was breaking right in front of your eyes, you suggested he do another cleanse. You called the doctor a liar and said he was rude. The comments on that live were filled with people spewing their alternatives instead of accepting that he needed not only a medical intervention, but probably some psychological help as well. In my opinion, that was the turning point and the beginning of the end for him. From that day forward, every new scan showing liver mets or worsening obstruction, everything was explained away as dead tumor pieces or parasite die-off or a healing crisis. He started to referring to his tumor as a mass, denying what the scans and the doctors showed him. He rallied on his faith, claiming that he had to pray harder, that he needed more spiritual help. He asked for money for even more radical treatments. The advice got more extreme, the warnings from doctors got ignored, and the hope turned into something that wasn't hope anymore. It was a delusion. And a few days ago, that delusion ran out of time. Now, I'm not saying this to dance on anyone's grave. In fact, I hate even saying this now, as it feels like a dig to Richie, who is no longer here and able to defend himself on this. But I believe he was battling way more than just cancer. He was caught between actually wanting to get better and not wanting to lose his following that he had built up using these radical and frankly crazy ideas. And I think the latter needs to be held accountable. Yeah, I'm looking at you, his followers. Some of y'all are still in his comments of his old videos talking about doing the same fasts, the same enemas, the same parasite cleanse for your own diagnosis, sharing unproven methods that have no base in reality or medical science. So many of you are making him a martyr for the wrong reasons and completely ignoring the truth. That this was a troubled human who showed us what not to do when you have stage 4 colon cancer. If you don't hear anything else I say in this video, hear this. That June live wasn't proof that doctors are evil. It was proof of how powerful the mind is when it decides to protect itself with a story that feels better than the truth. Because Richie was in a place where his mind would have accepted anything to find a reality that worked with him. And y'all kept spewing all this stuff over and over. So not only did he influence one way to the people who were following him, but his followers continued to influence him down a destructive path that ended up in him not being here anymore. See, Richie was a real person, and he was terrified just like any of us would be. He wasn't evil, he was human. But the path he chose and kept doubling down on took him out of existence way too soon, and has the chance of putting other people in danger. See, Richie's battle actually proved the power of the mind. The mind is truly a powerful thing. It can be used for good, but it can also be used against you. And when it comes to battling cancer, you have to believe in what you're doing. But also when it comes to battling cancer, what you're doing has to be rooted in some kind of evidence, science, and reality. As badly as you want it to be different, it just isn't. There's no natural cure for stage 4 cancer. There are no alternative protocols alone that will work to kill stage 4 cancer. It is a tragedy that someone so young had to lose his battle to cancer. And it's sad because I believe it didn't have to happen that way. He had many opportunities to try different things that were proven and stay in the science, and he turned down every single one of them. And you, his followers, y'all were okay with that. In my opinion, you were all complicit in his demise. Instead of helping him to see the truth in what he was doing, you told him to just have faith. And God knows you're on the right path. Keep denying the science. Jesus will heal you. And it breaks my heart to think some of you may have actually enjoyed watching his destruction. Because you know what? All of us in the cancer world who knows how wonderful modern medicine can be, we weren't thinking that. We were begging and pleading for him to see the light and stop the madness. And even now, in his death, instead of owning up to the reality that none of the shit that he tried worked, you don't defend him, you defend the protocols. Saying things like, yeah, he tried some of the alternatives, but he didn't do it right. Are you fucking kidding me? You don't see that you are the problem. Social media is a dangerous place when it comes to mental health. And attention is like a drug to someone who is fighting for their lives. And y'all became his dealer. In the end, Richie not only had to battle a disease that was trying to kill him, but a following who didn't give enough of a shit to push back on his beliefs to try to help him. And that disgusts me. I want what's best for people. And I will always offer up help in any way that I can. And I will challenge someone's beliefs if I see that their choices are causing them harm. I tried with Richie multiple times. And ultimately, I had to step away and let him make his choices because I realized that there was no getting through to him when he had an army of sycophants up his ass like a coffee enema, pushing him to do more crazy and unproven protocols and lean on his faith alone that will heal him. See, I believe after his 40-day fast, when the scan results showed that it didn't work, his reality snapped. From my conversations with him and what I got to know about him, he truly believed that it was going to make a difference, and in reality, it actually did absolutely nothing. I want you to put yourself in those shoes for a second. Can you imagine how it'd feel if you put that amount of determination and dedication into something for it to completely and utterly fail? I can't. But I know it fucks with your head and it changes how you see the world. And for some people, that means clinging to anything just to prove that their reality is the real one, regardless of the evidence against it. The truth is, he needed help. And y'all just let him keep going on with his delusions. So in a way, and I know this is a terrible way to think about it, but in my opinion, his existence on social media with what he was doing and how y'all were reacting could possibly end up killing a lot of people. But ultimately, just like Richie's choices were his to make, your choices are yours to make. I just pray that before you try something radical, you try something practical first. Sadly, a lot of you are going to get offended by this and see this as an attack on Richie because you're listening with your triggers and not your ears. And to be honest, I don't like having to come on here on this platform and say these things about someone who's no longer here to defend themselves, but like I quoted Marcus Aurelius at the very beginning of this, what we do in life echoes in eternity. Richie was a unique individual, and the world is going to be a lesser place without him. But the truth is, his actions and the message he shared with so many people was dangerous. But if you still believe that what he was doing was the right way to go about things, then I wish you the absolute best on your attempt. And I'm just going to sit back and let social Darwinism do its thing. See, Richie's passing is a tragedy. It didn't need to be this way. But if we learn from it, maybe it won't be in vain. If you're watching this and you're facing something similar, please, for the love of God, reach out to professionals who can guide you on evidence-based treatments. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I'm sharing this from a place of care, not judgment. We've all lost too many people to cancer, and now we're losing people to misinformation as well. We may not be able to control whether we get cancer, but we damn sure can control what we believe. We will never know if things could have been different for Richie. And his passing is going to mean different things for a lot of people. But I just pray that we learn the lessons from his journey and we honor Richie by choosing wisely for ourselves and our loved ones. And for the rest of you out here who watched this long, I want to remind you that you are stronger, you're more resilient, and you can handle way more than you believe that you can. Richie was actually proof of that in his own way. And we should remember him for who he was and his determination and his passion, no matter how misguided or misdirected it may have been. And Richie, if you're out there and you're hearing me, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help when you needed it. I'm sorry that you had to deal with all this crap, and I hope that you are truly at peace now, brother. Keep fucking going. We'll see you.